Good morning, guys. Fairly nice Monday morning here. And I got a couple of interesting ones to talk about. You know, I say that, well, I get kind of tired of doing these Fleabay edition. You know, it's kind of depressing trashing on some of these guys with some of the stupid stuff they're doing. But then somebody does something else that's really stupid that we want to talk about. So we're going to go through these today. I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time. There's two main items, although there's some other things I'll note. So we look at Atlas mill, and now we've got a milling attachment for a 10 or 12 inch lathe, $400. We've already talked about how well that works for us. Now I'm going to look at this just from the perspective of there's a vice jaw laying here, and it's not. This looks like a factory steel jaw or somebody's steel jaw. Anyway, and that was the only thing that I found interesting with it. But of course, it's too much money. Didn't even look to see who's selling it. Yeah, one of the sellers has been around for a while. Anyway, excuse me. The one that caught my attention right off the bat is, and let's look at the description first before we even look at it. Everything's good condition, ready to install. Ready to install. Please look at all pictures for full description of the item. Has been in storage for years. Comes exactly as shown in pictures. Free shipping to the lower 48 states only. So let's just look at the full-size pictures here. And what we have is a set of Atlas index centers for on the shaper. Now, you don't see these very often. Actually, before we look at the pictures, you don't see them very often. Got to buy it now, and it's conditioned for parts are not working. And that's kind of an understatement. So we got to buy it now of $700, which they've done this $700 thing before. Other sellers, you know, we've seen them with the index centers. We've seen them do them with vices, some stupid stuff like that. Now I have one of these set of centers, and they're not tremendously useful. It depends on what kind of work you're doing and everything. And actually, I do have some stuff coming up where I may utilize that on the shaper a little bit more. But I think in the 20-some years probably that I've owned my shaper, and it came with a set of index centers, I think I only gave $650 or $700 for the shaper with all the accessories on the stand and everything back then, which granted I understand inflation. But they're wanting as much for this accessory as I paid for my whole setup. And I'll drag mine out and I'll add some still pictures in here at the end of this. So you can kind of look at what I think, you know, mine's pretty well original, and this one actually is pretty well original too. So anyway, let's look at the pictures of this. Now we look at the first picture. This thing is a rust bucket. Now it's been sitting on a shelf for who knows how many years. It does have a lot of crap on top that we'll clean up. You know, it's just got dirt and grime and stuff on it. But when you look close, this thing's a rust bucket. Now, first picture, we're looking at it. The first thing I notice is the locking knob is not installed on the head itself. And if you look, you can see the knob, or at least the base part of it, is clamped in the dog there in the upper right-hand corner of the picture. And there's a drive dog, which I don't have an original drive dog with mine, I don't believe. And the other plate, these came with two index plates, is wired with a piece of baling wire through the index plate, through the drive dog, and then the handle's clamped onto it. Now this is pretty much original. This is the way they came. I believe this handle assembly and the drives and all the nuts and everything are original. They look exactly like mine. Index pin was a knurled pin. I think mine's a little bit longer than that, which may or may not have anything to do with anything. But the things you want to look at is this thing is rusted to crap. And all of these things, like the bull centers, they're rusted. I mean, it's not, there's a little bit of surface corrosion or anything. Same way with the index plates. Those centers are going to be pretty much seized in there, and it's grungy all over. Second picture, you look at it, same thing. The split cotter is in the head portion of it right here, but you don't see a bolt through there, so I'm suspecting that it's rusted up and broken off, and this split cutter is very probably seized in that bore. You know, it's set and got so much grunge and crap on it. The drive portion that goes on the drive dog is complete there on the headstock end. All of there again rusty. Those I believe were a plated part to start with, and you look at this index disc and it is rusty, just flat rusty. And you look at all the crap on that you can see on this lower index plate, and it looks like it may be as grungy as anything else, but when you get to looking closer, this is all etched out. This is kind of a blurry picture. You don't see a tremendous amount, but you still see that nice brown rust in there, and that's not just a little bit of rust. That's just flat corrosion. Most of this is just crap on the painted surface there. But next picture, there again, paint's kind of yucky, nothing spectacular. Almost looks like it's been punched along there. You know, I wonder if that plate may have been a little bit loose on the spindle, and they've gone ahead and just peened it a little bit with a punch. Now I could be wrong, but that's been whacked on with a center punch, it looks like. Now they haven't really taken anything loose off of this set of centers, and there you look at this 60-degree center. It's got quite a bit of corrosion on the outside. It's going to be corroded down inside. That screw may or may not be seized in place. This is not going to want to come apart. It does have the locking T-nuts that go down on the table. It's got the key that aligns it down here. And you look at all this crap underneath. Now, a lot of that's just grungy, but why is it that ugly? Has this sat in some water or something like that? And you look at all of this. This is all etched. Now, both of these were machined surfaces on the bottom. That's where it rested on the table. So are those corroded so bad and etched out? And they look pretty nasty when I looked at the close-up pictures of it. So yeah, not ugly. Same way these bottom surfaces, why they are those are etched. Those are rusted and etched. Is just flat what they are. Look at all the staining on the back side of this wheel. That's corrosion. There again, look at all of this. That's not, at first I wondered if that was like an oil paper or something, but I think that's just corrosion underneath there. I think that's just flat ugly. Same way you look at this. Now I don't know if those were actually, if that's a factory drive dog, if they're knurled like that or not under the square. But yeah, this is a ugly center. Now, in and of itself, I probably wouldn't, you know, they're a nifty accessory for your machine. And if it was reasonably priced, I'd say this might be a good deal. You know, if I saw this at a swap meet for 150 bucks or even 200 bucks, I'd offer the guy 125 or 150, and we'd settle on 150, 140, something like that, and I'd feel like I got a good deal, and he got a decent price for his parts. But to try and get $700 and that these people are smoking dope, you know, don't fall for that at all. This can be redone. This could be a perfectly good set of index centers if you're going to refurbish it and replace the parts that need to be replaced at this point in time. I build the split cotters now. You know, you're going to have 20, 25 bucks in that without the knob and the handle, and there's a good chance that these Zamac parts are pretty well deteriorated. Now the handle and the knob look pretty good there, so maybe not, and that's the only thing that's Zamac other than the knob on top and the split cotter itself. So you know, it might be fine, but that split cotter is going to be gone, so you're going to have another 25 bucks there. I build index plates for them. I think I put them out there for $90 a set. There's a fair amount of machining in those. I go through and those are all cut on the CNC and then deburred on the back sides of them. I manually deburr them. So there's a fair amount of time in those index centers. So, you know, on the auction site, 250 bucks. You know, that's about what it's worth. So anyway, I found that one extremely interesting. So if we move on down, milling machine, I don't think there's really anything new here that jumps out at me. Milling attachment vice jaws, $39.99. You know, those are already on the website. We've covered those for substantially less than that. What else do we have? nothing under, and the index centers, that may down the road be a future project once I get caught up with some other stuff. That may be something that's interesting to do some castings for and things like that. The reason I'm not pushing that kind of stuff right now is things like that probably should be done in cast iron. I prototype the stuff in aluminum. Shrinkage variations is not that much of an issue like the mill index centers that I'm trying to get finished up now. But those patterns, once they're done, will transfer over into cast iron castings quite nicely. So those things may be projects down the road that are offered. We come on down, new Atlas milling machine bed T-nut, steel, USA made, new, $20.99. I'm not going to go and look at those. Those are a standard T-nut. They've got a 5/16 thread in them. And actually, I have to run down to my little steel supplier today. They've got a piece of stock sitting down there for me, so we're gonna machine a few of those, probably about 10 foot worth of them. So those will be on the website here in the near future. I'm going to do them a little bit differently. They're going to be finished out a little bit nicer than that. We'll run them through the bluing tanks and stuff when we're done. But I think we can do a little bit better price-wise on those. If you have some special requests for threads on T-nuts, shoot me an email, because I will hold back a little bit of stock, and we may do a few custom ones for not a whole lot of difference in price from just what the standard 5/16. So otherwise, nothing else really jumps out at me. There's this power table feed assembly for $175 for the mill. I'm not even going to look at that. What do we got here? Milling machine M6-44 and M645 tailstock, the split cotters for $40. We just put those on the website. I just did a video of those. We released that last week. I think mine are out there for normally about $20, a little bit under $20 actually, and then shipping. And I think we've done a little bit nicer jobs than these. I think right now I'm still running those on a sale price since I just released those for another couple bucks off. Anyway, that's all I see under milling machines. Lathe compound rest nut, piece of crap used one, $35.95. Nope, don't waste your money or your time. So let's go on to the shapers and see what we see here. Index centers are the first thing that pop up. Nothing else new. Gibbs, new old stock 7B shaper. I think we talked about these before. $37 new open box and $5.25 shipping. We'll be building some Gibbs here now the next 3 or 4 weeks. That's an easy one. Shaper milling machine S47A. We'll set those aside. That's all I see under shapers and under lathes. Nothing jumps out at me. Let's see here. There's a few brand new ones that I hadn't seen since I looked just a little bit ago. Oh, 10-12 inch lathe gear spacer bushings, 3/4 to half, $15 and $5.50 shipping, pre-owned. That's the spacer that goes between your compound gears when you set them up on the manual change gears. 10-inch lathe counter shaft adjusting screws and nuts, pre-owned, $15.95 or $15.99 and $6 shipping. Those are, I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember what size those are. Those are just a standard slotted head set screw is all they are, with a nut on them. I don't remember the threads. I don't know if those are a 1/4 20 or a 5/16 as shown in pictures. Those are about $5 or $8 worth of parts, and then shipping. There again, all this stuff. Now these look like a thin nut, but these are nothing spectacular. And if you've already got a setup, what do you need them for? So, you know, overpriced. Gear case levers, bell gears, pre-owned yokes, reverse gear case yoke. $9.59, $35. Yeah, you're getting ripped off. Nice Atlas Craftsman 10-12 inch lathe, split half nut assembly complete, 10F-12. $12. Now the half nuts with the threads in them probably need to be replaced. You know, I think they're probably going to be worn. What's the description say? Oh, I broke one trying to get apart. Thought it might have been a pretty good deal. Yeah, that's what you want to do, is buy a broken piece of crap. Oh yeah, and they broke the whole assembly. They broke both one of the split nuts and the housing for it. Yeah, nope. There was a couple of things down here that intrigued me. Let me find them here. Vintage Bison 4-inch 3-jaw chuck, 1.5 8. It's not going to run true. You know, it's vintage, it's wore out. Even though it's complete, why, it's not going to run true. Atlas Craftsman 10-inch lathe cross slide stop. This is a new listing now. $66, 0 bids, our best offer, $9.20 shipping. This is the same one that we just looked at, I believe, last week, and it didn't sell for the $66. There again, it's on the list of things to build. It's not a major thing. Another 4-inch 3-jaw chuck, South Bend Logan Sears. It's a Cushman jaw, $200 and $15 shipping. These used chucks, if you can get them for next to nothing, or they come with a machine, they're worth having. Otherwise, they do not run true. They have to be ground in, and then they're really only good for one diameter. So they're kind of a worthless setup. Follower rests, steady rests, lead screws. Yeah, wore out shit. 2 Atlas Craftsman 10-12 inch lathe apron screws, black oxide from a commercial. It's the same one as used on a standard, I believe. $13 and $3 shipping. They're a standard. I've got to talk to my fastener supplier and see if they've got these, if I can still get these exact screws or not. I'll find out what's going on with those. There's a couple of things. There was one in particular. Somebody's parting out a 6-inch Atlas Craftsman 618. Now, there again, should not have been the sum of its parts, and they've, you know, it might be interesting to go back through and add up what they're trying to get out of the sum of its parts here. But the thing that came to me right off the bat, jumped out at me, and I did want to talk about, is a 618 Craftsman 101 6-inch lathe headstock with 4-jaw independent 4-jaw chuck, pre-owned, $275 and $22.65 shipping. Now this one is worth looking at, and I don't really recognize this seller, although he's been around for a while from looking at his feedback. If we look at this headstock, at first it looks like a decent used headstock. So it's got Craftsman badging on it on the top cover, and we're going to assume that this top cover goes with the headstock itself and hasn't been replaced, although who knows, as I'll point out later on. Doesn't look too bad in the first picture. So things that jump out at me, looks like there might be a little bit of etching on this chuck itself. Got quite a bit of brushed finish underneath the paint here that you don't see on the headstock casting itself. Like I say, I'm going to assume they go together, and that's all that really jumps out at me at the first picture. So if we look at the second picture, nothing really bad jumps out at me. You know, it's another picture. You look at it and you think it's still okay. You know, a little bit of discoloration underneath the chuck back, which isn't unusual. You know, not a big thing there. Third picture doesn't tell us anything, just inside the headstock cover. Fourth picture, we see the chuck. And I can't really see anybody's name on that per se. Maybe if I was interested enough to go back, I could, but I'm not that interested. So condition still looks okay. You know, got no real beefs there. 101-21590, so this would have been a Craftsman chuck with that number probably. Probably came with the lathe. and doesn't, you know, small 4-jaw chuck would probably be fine. Got no complaints there. This one we got a little bit of staining right here, but there again, nothing that's gonna say, yeah, you need to avoid this. Now, you look at this little punch mark right down here. That may be perfectly fine. That may be somebody trying to tighten up that jaw in its mounting a little bit, which I don't know why you'd really want to do that. And that may just be factory. That's something I just now noticed. But that may or may not be something there. Now, when we start looking here, look at all these nice little channel lock marks. And when you look at these pictures up close, they're much more apparent. And it almost looks like we've got some channel lock, pipe wrench, you know, something like that on the spindle itself and on the nut there. And when you look at these gears a little bit closer, they're a little bit chewed up. You know, there's been a little bit of something right around there. There again, nothing that would say, you know, really avoid this when you look at the gears. Now this concerns me here. So why do we have channel locks, vice grips, something like that on there? Pipe wrench. Pipe wrench is probably the weapon of choice on things like this for some of these hacks. So then we look at this one, and nothing tells me really bad, really ugly here. Nothing really bad, really ugly here. If you haven't figured it out, I've already made a revelation on this headstock. And part of it comes back to the description, and part of it is from looking at this. We're also missing the other Craftsman badge here, and that's one of the things that makes me wonder if the upper cover is original to this, because if we had Craftsman badging here, I'm not sure it would have later model Craftsman badging up on top. I honestly don't know, but that kind of red flags to me a little bit there. Okay, so that's all we see for pictures. Now let's go back and look at the description. And we're going to bear in mind that I just pointed out all those nice little pipe wrench marks on the outboard end of the spindle. Atlas Craftsman 101 6-inch lathe, complete headstock with 4-jaw 4-inch independent chuck. Now, these guys parting out these machines, they're going to part out everything they can. So why are they selling this chuck with the headstock? And to me, what red flags there is that very probably that chuck is seized on that spindle. They tried to get it apart, I'm guessing, with pipe wrench, whatever the case may be, wouldn't come. So rather than risking more damage to it and more being chewed up on the end of the spindle here, why they chose to sell it with the chuck itself. So there again, if it was sold as a complete machine, probably be a good usable machine. This would be something that could be overcome, this I'm guessing frozen chuck. But they've chosen to part it out, and they flagged this as being probably a piece of crap. But see, I don't know that you would have both that Craftsman badging there, which is probably later model badging, and then be missing the badging on the lower portion of the headstock. So that makes me wonder if this headstock cover was put on later, the whole thing was painted at some point in time. Probably not a matched set of parts there, I'm guessing. So, and it probably came that way to the guy that's parting this machine out. It was probably done at some time earlier, I'm guessing, but I would speculate the headstock cover is not original to the headstock, and I'm guessing that chuck is seized in place. So, $100, $100, that's all it is. I think that's all that really, there's more parts for that. Milling attachment vice jaws, $40. Yeah, we've just talked about those. There's some other new parts here, some other used stuff. There's Atlas, then this one's kind of misleading until you really get to looking at it. Atlas lathe machinist tables model number TH54 and manual. Wasn't sure what that was. Almost appeared to be a set of index centers. and part of it's going to a charity, you know, which I think is good. Used condition as seen in photographs. And this is a 10-inch 54 lathe. See what the description says. Yeah, it doesn't say anything that really jumps out to me as far as pictures go. You look at it, it's a 54-inch bed, 10-inch, sitting in the back of a pickup bed. Can't tell a whole lot from there. Headstock end, this is pretty rusty. Got a lot of corrosion on it. Can't really tell if it's, yeah, it's pretty nasty. Look at the third picture. This has been sitting a while. Yeah, it's kind of a rust bucket. Probably clean up. Looks to be surface rust for the most part. There's going to be the normal wear in the bed. When we look at this picture, you can look at this is where the saddle set was in this area. So this is pretty well, this has been sitting in somebody's barn for a fair amount of time. (055-111) is the serial number, 54-inch. This is pretty grungy, you know. And it looks like it's got quite a bit of accessories. Looks like there's about 3 chucks, a couple of face plates, steady rest, jaws. Looks like there's a fair amount of, got change gears with it, fair amount of accessories with it, but it's in ragged condition. You know, it's no cherry there. Now there was one here. Let's see if I can find it just while I'm here, and then we're going to go away. And I had it in my saved list, and I was messing around yesterday, and I think I lost it. So let me look. Now here's a new in box M6 325 6-inch swing Atlas Craftsman lathe steady rest, brand new. One bid at $50 and 1014 shipping. This, there again, they've got the box. This is a later model. This is that kind of yucky looking blue that they put on the later model steady rests. You know, it's going to be a standard standard 6-inch steady rest. You know, it is new. For a reasonable price, it'd be a good deal for somebody with a 6-inch. There was one here I would like to find. It was a complete lathe. I believe it was a 12-inch. Now I suppose I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh, 54-inch bed for a quick change, 54-inch lathe, 10 and 12-inch. Great condition. Great condition. Now this is from a seller that's been selling his crap. Look at all the striations down the bed. Now it almost looks like they've taken a wire wheel or something to that. What do we got here? Let's look at all those markings down the bed. What a piece of shit. And it's been wire brushed off at the very minimum. Look at those. Look at those markings. You look at the rest of the bed, you see some rust down in between the webs in the center and everything. Yet the tops of the whole tops of the ways are nice and shiny. Yeah, it's been at least wire brushed off. Look at all those. Look at all those markings. See the pitting in it. It's not great condition. It's been hidden. Fill your transmission with sawdust so it looks like something worth having. So it sounds like something worth having. Yeah, you're gonna hide the condition of a bed, and then another $173 to ship it. Bed is in overall good shape. It had some surface rust on it, so I ran a wire wheel over the surface. It doesn't have a bad wear spots. POS. This is from a seller that's been doing this. Well, I'm not seeing it now. There was a listing here for I believe it was a 12-inch lathe. It may have only been a 10, but I'm pretty sure it was a 12. I think it was a quick change lathe. And I don't remember the price on it. It wasn't extremely out of the price range. And it looked fairly decent. The tailstock bearing, or the lead screw bearing on the tailstock end of the lathe, on the outboard end of the lathe, had been damaged at some point, and it was a welded up assembly that they'd cobbled together and put back on there. There again, that didn't even deter me too much. My only concern with that is if those were the pictures of the lathe in its current condition, because it had a time stamp on it from several years ago. So that might be something you want to be looking at too. You know, a seller shouldn't be so lazy that they can't take the time to take new pictures. So if they've got a time stamp from a previous period, who knows if that's the way that lathe actually looks. I think it had quite a few accessories with it. It was a decent looking lathe, but something to be aware of when you're reviewing some of this stuff. So anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for you today. I will add some pictures of my Shaper Index Center so that you can compare them to the ones that we learned, to the one that we looked at a little bit earlier here. And hopefully you find that a little bit interesting and useful. So as always, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comments section for me below. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. And as always, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch.